There are some significant developments to update on the court challenges being faced by Kirralie Smith. As you know, Kirralie was dragged before the courts when she spoke up when a biological male trans soccer player was playing in her local community girls' soccer competition. She said males don't belong in female sport. Now, there's some good news to her court appearances over saying such controversial things, in that Kirralie has won one of those court battles. Kirralie Smith leads the organisation called Binary and is a campaigner for girls' and women's sex-based rights. Kirralie Smith, a special welcome back to 2020.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
Kirralie, the first application for the apprehension of violence against you was withdrawn by the police prosecutor in court this week. That's the win, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look, Neil, the process is the punishment, as we often say when it comes to lawfare. But it was such a great feeling of victory and relief. She strung us out until 2:00 in the afternoon before she withdrew it right as the hearing was about to begin, but withdrew it nonetheless, and couldn't be more, thrilled and relieved over that result.
You've had a lot of people standing by you. There's a lot of people who subscribe to and support Binary. A lot of listeners will be so familiar with your name. Lots of people have stood by you, but in all of this, as you say, the punishment is the process. And in all of that happens, you have to have a legal team around you. Tell us about how that process has worked for you.
Look, I've had a fantastic legal team, Solve Legal they're called, and Kyle and Cameron have been the two solicitors that I've been working with most, and they were able to get on board the former New South Wales Attorney General, Greg Smith, who's a wonderful Christian man, and both of my solicitors are also of the faith, so that's really tremendous. And they've done an exceptional amount of work. We knew that my behaviour in terms of just identifying males who are playing in female sporting teams does not rise to the level of violence, simply stating the facts, and it's a matter of public discourse and information that we need to be able to have these debates. But my team did a lot of work, and they were able to address the facts of the matter in our submissions, but also address the constitutional viability of these arguments and whether or not I should be under such an apprehension of violence order when words are not violence. And I think just having Greg Smith's presence there was fantastic. We also, the current New South Wales Attorney General, sent along a barrister and two solicitors at taxpayers' expense if that argument was to arise. But thankfully, the police prosecutor withdrew at the 11th hour because we really don't think that AVO could have gone anywhere. And the magistrate showed great relief and expressed his thanks to my team for their comprehensive submission, and said that he even learnt some things about constitutional law, because that's not normally where, it doesn't normally happen in local court like that.
I think this is something that listeners will be particularly interested in, because obviously we're going to a referendum soon and it's on a constitutional issue. When you are in court and you're accused of inciting violence, what is it in the Constitution that does provide this sort of protection for us? Is this something... Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't the aspect... So we were going to argue the facts of the matter first, that what I said does not constitute violence. That argument, it's about the freedom of political speech, that it is in the Constitution, and that... all Australians, this is meant to be a democracy, Neil, where we are allowed to voice our political opinions. I would go further to say that the fact of male and female is much more than a political opinion. It is an absolute reality and fact. But I should also, particularly in my position as spokeswoman for Binary, a political lobbying organisation, I must have the freedom to be able to make these statements, have reasonable and rational debates. I've never incited violence. I've never threatened anyone. All I've done is repost publicly available information and made comment on it. So that would be our argument.
So it is a big win, and it's not violence or incitement to violence to state that males do not belong in female sport. that's the big win, isn't it? That's just very
Absolutely.
simple, but how do you reflect on that now? Because obviously you'd have been concerned that somehow or other, if they were going to be able to silence you, they'd silence everyone. So the big win is here. You can say that males do not belong on female teams.
Well, look, and we hope that is the case, Neil. I'm still floating. I'm so ecstatic at this result, but I do have another application of apprehension of violence from another soccer player who's been playing in a female team. That's coming up in October, and then I have to face 2 vilification complaints from both of those players for misgendering them. So basically, I've called them male because they're male, and that's going before the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal as a misgendering case. So we're not out of the woods. There's still a long way to go, but this first win feels very satisfying. It feels like it can set a precedent, at least for myself and my team, and we will keep walking confidently in this because there is no violence, there is no vilification, there's no maliciousness. This is purely a conversation that must be had, and all Australians must feel free to be able to state the truth, the facts, evidence, scientific-based reality, and that's all this is about.
And Kiralee, reminding listeners too, you are the Australian Mother of the Year. So if the Australian Mother of the Year can't speak out for girls and women and make some differentiation as to who's male and female, perhaps who can? So certainly special congratulations on getting off on that first charge, and listeners will have picked up on you've got 2 more cases that you're going to answer. Are they similar to the one that you've just won?
Yes, well, there's actually 3 separate cases. So one is the AVO matter from another soccer player. That's a private AVO. It's not a police matter. So we'll see how that goes. It's still before the court, and I'll face that in October. Then the other 2 are vilification complaints brought by both of the soccer players. For misgendering, supposedly misgendering them, calling them males because in actual fact they're males.
And so far as supporters go, there's an awful lot of people who have really decided to get behind you in your role there, leading Binary at binary.org.au, and people are subscribing there and they're receiving regular updates and those sorts of things. And last time we were counting, I think there was something like 100,000 people who'd thrown their weight behind you at Binary. Obviously, there's always room for 1 or 2 more who might be general supporters, even some financial backers as well. Is there a need for people to really get behind you at this point?
Oh, look, absolutely, Neil. We are, 1 down, 3 to go, and I won't be surprised if, more people try this kind of lawfare against me and against people in a similar position. So we are still fundraising. There's a lot of costs involved when you have someone like the former Attorney General, Greg Smith, and when we have to employ barristers, senior legal counsel, and my legal team who are doing a lot of work. And they are going above and beyond. But these cases do cost a lot of money, but it's absolutely essential that we do take on these battles and win them for the sake of all Australians, for freedom of speech and for protections for parental rights, for child safeguarding, and for women and girls' sex-based spaces, services and sports.
Well, I'm going to give that Binary address to connect with Kiralee in just a few moments. But Kiralee, I did mention you are the Australian Mother of the Year, and you've had some good news in your family just this past week or so. Your 3rd foster daughter has just been married. Congratulations.
Oh, it was so marvellous, Neil. We had a wonderful celebration, and it was just beautiful down on New South Wales South Coast. And she's married a beautiful, amazing man who is so devoted to God and to her. So we couldn't be happier.
Well, Kiralee Smith is on the front line. She leads the organisation called Binary, Binary. She's a campaigner for girls' and women's sex-based rights. She's rock solid as a Christian believer and has a degree in theology. So if you'd like to support Kiralee, get alongside. Subscribe to those regular updates on what's happening, or just be kept informed as these crazy court cases come against Christian believers who stand up for what they see as biblical Christian values. check in with binary.org.au. Binary.org.au. Kiralee Smith, thanks so much for an update today on 2020.
Thanks for having me again, Neil.